It's Mark and Pete.
Hello and welcome to the show. More colourful conversations with Mark and Pete. This is the show dedicated to religion, politics and business. Now each week, Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark debate an important topic. Well, this week is something to celebrate. Happy Chinese New Year! Well, each year, the Chinese calendar is characterized by 12 animals, and that's part of their zodiac. Well, this year is the year of the monkey. But what does that mean to people? What does that mean in the way of personality, to the economy, and to others? Now, with me today is a cheeky little monkey, and that is Clergyman Pete. So, Clergyman Pete,
Yes.
what do you think about China, and particularly what do you think about our Chinese friends?
Well, businessman Mark, I suppose one of the main things I think about China is how dynamic they are in business, how they've developed, still with a communist political system, a capitalist, or I suppose you might say corporatist, a mixture of the two, way of working. They have certainly developed the business model of their economy to include lots of startups, but also lots of big companies favourably helped by tariffs in China, such that they're now one of the big economies in the world. I'm not sure where they stand in the actual rankings, but they're certainly one of the biggest economies in the world, and we seem to be looking at them looking at the way they're developing as an economy in the financial news all the time. But also, what I would say is, the Chinese people have a certain confidence about them, which enables them to do this, to turn things around in only a few years to become such a powerhouse. So yeah, I'm a bit of a fan. I think they do really well. I mean, it sounds a bit condescending to say, yeah, I'm a bit of a fan. But the thing is, I did live there and work there for a few years. So I know quite a few Chinese people, including Chinese businessmen, and I'm impressed with the way that they go about things in such an entrepreneurial manner.
Well, I think that's an important point because they've certainly become the powerhouse for manufacturing. They are, in fact, the world's second largest economy behind the United States of America. Now, when we come back to the Chinese New Year, well, they're very philosophical in the way that they sort of define each year. And because we're here in the year of the monkey, of course, what does that actually mean to people? Well, a lot of people actually pore all over this, and they actually sort of think that it actually does set the path to the way that fortunes will unfold throughout the whole year. Well, I'm just going to set up a little clue here as to what might be happening potentially in this new Chinese year. Now, this is a little poem which I do each week, and this is called Call of the Wild. Muddles the monkey was far too spunky, but thought he could sing to swing. He flapped all of his arms, flaunted his charms, and jumped like a coiled spring. As Muddles got funky, his hair went punky, and he was wild as Elvis the King. He then fell back on the drums, caught guitars with his thumbs, and lassoed himself with a string. Yes, well, you see, everyone can be a funny little monkey, but I guess, Clergyman Pete, what do monkeys actually mean to you? What do you think are the strengths of a monkey?
Oh, okay. Now, I guess monkeys are quite funny. We're looking at the character of a monkey to see what it would mean to be the year of the monkey, are we?
Oh, yes.
Right, okay. So I guess there's a funny, cheeky chappy. I suppose they'd be full of energy. So you get lots of things done, maybe, in the year of the monkey. I guess that's what I think about them. Slightly cheeky, naughty, maybe.
Well, not so much about naughty, but they're definitely the strengths are defined as being sociable, innovative, enthusiastic, and
Right.
self-assured. So for anyone who was born in the year of the monkey, those are your main strengths. And is that true? Is that something that you can relate to? Now, what do you think their weaknesses are?
A monkey's weakness. Well, if those are the strengths, and of course, it's undoubtedly true that everyone born in the year of the monkey will have these qualities. I mean, I don't doubt that for one moment. The thing about monkeys that's a weakness. Let me see. Well, I suppose they're easily distracted. They well, they're not the brightest of animals, are they? Not that intelligent. So perhaps a bit dim, sort of easily distracted. A bit like yourself, Mark, I suppose.
Well, thank you very much. Well, luckily, I was not born in the year of the monkey, but the weaknesses are a little bit suspicious, cunning, perhaps a bit selfish, maybe, and arrogant, and very jealous. Now, of course, when we look at these sort of things, there are other things that sort of define the year. For example, there are lucky numbers, lucky colours, even lucky flowers, which you should have. And, of course, there are many things that you should and should not do. So, for example, the lucky numbers would be 1, 7, and 8. So maybe that's a good indication to start doing the lotto.
Though these are lucky. These are lucky numbers for monkeys.
Well, absolutely.
Oh, right. Well, it's good to know. Good to know.
Start writing those down. Although I do know that you are not a monkey. Well, I mean, you're a cheeky monkey, but you're definitely not born in the year of the monkey.
Well, no. If it's a 12-year cycle, I can't because I was born in an odd-numbered year.
Absolutely. We'll come on to that in a minute. Now, the famous people who have been cheeky monkeys, of course, are Mick Jagger. Not a surprise there, of course, lead singer of the Rolling Stones.
Yes.
Julius Caesar, who is not a member of the Rolling Stones, of course, but the great Roman leader, Leonardo da Vinci, I guess the bit of the artistic side, Charles Dickens, the author, even Lord Byron, the great poet. Yes. You know, these are all famous monkeys.
Yeah, I see them as monkeys. Now you say that, they have the characteristics, the good characteristics you talked about, and also people like Byron. What did you say? They were a little bit deceptive, and he
a bit suspicious.
What's the phrase? He wandered around with fluses, didn't he? I think that's the right technical term.
But there are taboos, and I want to come on to the taboos because this is very prevalent in the year of the monkey. So there are some things that one should avoid on Chinese New Year. Perhaps a cheeky clergyman might be one, but actually that's not actually in the list. But I would always advise that at any year. But what do you think, Clergyman Pete, are some of the taboos on Chinese New Year?
Right. Okay. Now I'm not completely au fait with them. That is to say, I have no idea really. But I'm going to take a bit of a stab at this. So things that you shouldn't do. Well, I guess there's always something to do with money, as money tends to be given.
That's very good. You're right on the right path. Yes.
Okay. Well, money tends to be given at festivals in China. So maybe you actually at New Year you shouldn't spend any. Shouldn't spend a penny. No, I mean
I'll give you a
how
clue.
about that?
It might seem a little bit unhygienic, but you shouldn't wash your hair. Now, I'll explain this.
That's nothing to do with money. That's nothing to do with money. What are you talking about?
Well, it says, I'm sure you probably did wash your hair. Although I don't have much hair, I did wash it. But it says hair must not be washed on the first day of the lunar year. And this is because in the Chinese language, hair has the same pronunciation as a particular character, which means to become wealthy. So therefore, it's seen not as a good thing to wash one's fortune away at the beginning of the new year.
So there's nothing about spending money then, or not investing money.
I mean, there is the fact that debt, money should not be lent on a New Year's Day. That again is seen as bad.
So you shouldn't lend money. Okay.
Shouldn't lend money. No. That's not a good thing. Can you think of something else, which I think is something that's very hard to control?
Something very hard to control. Oh, right. Okay. You shouldn't go to the toilet. No defecating on New Year's Day. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
please be aware, listeners, that I would always advise that to always go about your business as normal. However, on this occasion, is that do not enforce crying children. The cry of a child is believed to bring bad luck in the family.
Oh.
So parents, be aware that do their best to keep their children as happy as possible. Now, it's all good advice, and there are many of these things, and I'm sure you can look them all up. It covers everything from medicine to what to eat and what not to eat. But I think that when you sort of look about predictions, it is interesting that we do have a lot of focus, of course, on China. Now, why is that? Well, I think that we've seen in recent times that the Chinese economy has boomed, and there's no real sort of luck about the fact that China has grown its economy because, again, of its manufacturing power. It has a lot of natural resources, particularly things like coal, although, of course, there are downsides to that, particularly with the pollution that's occurred. But there's no question that they have been a powerhouse, and a lot of the West has actually exploited a lot of opportunities commercially with China. But things are changing. And it's no surprise that, in fact, ironically, that the year of the monkey is actually seen not to have great fortune. So in 2016, in particular, a lot of people actually see that a lot of fortunes will not go people's way. Now, is that ominous for us? Because a lot of people do rely on, of course, the Chinese economy. Now, interestingly enough, also, it was announced very recently that China's foreign currency reserve plunged by an absolutely monumental $99.5 billion in January 2016. This is according to the People's Bank of China. So it's actually been running down its vast foreign currency reserves in an attempt to sort of boost the value of its own currency and stem the flow of funds from overseas. So whilst we've been putting a lot of emphasis on China, is that a good thing for us? What do you think?
Well, I think that the Chinese economy has been remarkable, and so there's a lot of attention given to it because of its remarkable growth recently. But I think that we focus too much on it, in that, we're not dead yet out in the West. I think there's life in the old dog yet. And too much assumption is made that growth in these new economies, well, reborn economy, I suppose you could say, with China, it's not permanent. You see, they're not going to be in that state forever. There's quite a short-term thinking. And here on Market Beat, we encourage long-term thinking. And you should think, well, look, that these things, impressive growth rate in the economy, for example, is not going to go on forever. If you take the GDP, the growth rate in China, of course it has been impressive recently, but it's been dropping off. And, surely we should expect that to happen at some point. Because economies don't just grow and grow and grow all the time. There are external factors which stop that happening. And of course, at a certain point, economies have their own problems with inside, structural problems with internal investment, problems with their own labour force. And, from the inside, the growth is slowed because of pressures from the inside, rather. So, I think we possibly concentrate too much on it. But on the other hand, China's story has been remarkable. I mean, China is known, and I believe there is some truth to this, for misreporting its financial and economic data.
Yes.
But you can still outside agencies still have a good idea of what's going on to a certain extent, such that it can't all be smoke and mirrors. So there has been remarkable growth, but it's slowing down now, and we shouldn't be surprised at that.
No, we shouldn't. Although clearly a lot of industry leaders and, in fact, politicians have definitely turned their attention to China. I mean, we've seen in recent times in the UK, people like David Cameron and George Osborne have made many trips to China in the quest to try and bridge stronger relations. And, of course, it's not just been Britain that has done that. Many other well-known and very large economies have also tried to sort of curry favour with the Chinese. But I do agree that on the one hand, whilst there are perhaps some slowdowns here, at the end of the day, surely China, with its huge opportunities commercially, and of course from a consumer point of view, more and more demand will just only grow. If you look at the growth path, if you look at big industries like the chemical industries, a lot of people do see that the demand in polypropylene and many other important industries that produce goods, whether that's in consumer electronics or whether that's in cars, etc., we need those goods. And of course, China needs those type of goods. So the longer term prospect probably is that China is certainly going to play a significant role. And it is predicted by many that actually, assuming that things can be held together politically, they could become the world's largest economy. Do you think that's something that is a possibility?
Could they become the world's largest economy? Yeah. I don't see why not, because just simply because they're slowing in growth doesn't mean they're not still growing. I read recently that their growth during 2015 was equivalent in size to the entire economy of Switzerland. You know, it's slowed down, yeah, but it's still increasing. So I see no reason to say that simply because China's having its own difficulties, that it's going to go into meltdown. I don't see that necessarily happening.
No, but let me take a different tack here, which is a little bit about the culture, because Chinese culture is very, very different to, say, the West. Mm-hmm. I guess, when we look at some of the subjects we've tackled, religion, for example, I mean, just give me a bit of insight in terms of the differences that you've seen on the ground. As you say, you've been to China. What does that mean for people who are trying to sort of engage with people in China from the West?
Well, just talking in general terms, if you take someone in China, they are officially atheist, as officially China is an atheist country and runs on those principles. Officially it's atheist but tolerant of religion, although that tolerance has very strict limits of what religious organizations can do. It's seen as an atheistic country which allows some religiosity. However, in actual practice, if you it's put like this often: if you scratch the surface of the average Chinese person, they're an atheist but a Buddhist underneath. And that Buddhism, the Chinese Buddhism, which developed from Tibetan Buddhism, which is a Buddhism which believes in many gods, a god for each area of your life, including a god, for example, for wealth and that sort of thing, and veneration of your ancestors. This form of Buddhism, which has taken on board ideas from the traditional Chinese religions, is the basis for the Chinese culture, the Chinese way of life, and this coupled with the sort of system of thought from thinkers such as Confucius on the one hand and Tao on the other, the Tao principles, that the coupled together, taken together rather, give you a real religious undercurrent to Chinese thought and behaviour, with rituals and ways of behaving underneath what seems like a modern way of operating.
Yes. Yes. Well, look, I mean, we're coming to the end of the show, and I just thought I'd mention that listeners, as we all sort of outlined about what the zodiac means to people, and maybe you disagree with the predictions for what 2016 has under the Chinese New Year. Well, I can tell you that Mark, that's me, I am a dragon, and Pete, well, he is a snake. But here on Mark and Pete, we're both really cheeky monkeys. So, listeners, why not let us know what you think about the Chinese New Year? Do you agree with the predictions of the Year of the Monkey? Do you have experience of doing business in China? So why not drop us a line on markandpete.com and let us know your thoughts. So join us again for more topical topics with Mark and Pete.